Like, why does it say you're offline?
That was an accident. Oops. Yeah. Let's do that again. It's today in EVE Online, March 24th, 2020. I am Matterall. In the real world, for reference, the UK has just locked down the country. Welcome to the party. And in EVE Online, patch notes have been released for the March release. So we're going to go through those with some friends. Let me introduce Arya.
Hello, everyone.
Caleb.
Hey, people.
Fonsui.
Good morning.
And our bud, Spod.
Back to being Spod.
Still gone. Yeah, his name was Edmund Jean, but we had him change it back to Spod, and he changed it. We agreed on Spodmund, so we'll call him Spod. We like that too much. All right, let me bring up the notes. Welcome, people. First of all, a little bit of real world. Caleb, you're familiar with UK. What's it like over there?
A little bit. Well, they just shut the doors, and everyone is just going, uh-oh.
Didn't see that coming.
Everything is shutting down now, right? It's like even the US is proper shutting down soonish. Some states already have done so almost completely, right? It's like now the seriousness are hitting, and people are realizing that this is something they need to do because it's just way too costly to not do it, and they've seen the results from Italy. So don't get to that point, please.
Right. Oh, well. We'll do quarantine and stations a bit later if we can. For now, let's go back to EVE Online. Talk about these patch notes. Okay, I'll read a little bit and then you guys discuss. So starting out with features and changes, balancing. Changes to faction warfare. Faction warfare complex acceleration gate will give a suspect flag if activated by non-faction warfare capsuleer. I'll just read the subpoints here. In such cases, the safety setting must be to partial or no safety, orange or red, to activate the gate. When safety is full green, the gate cannot be activated. And the second bullet point is faction war participants will be able to activate the acceleration gates without penalty. All right, what is that?
So this creates a situation in which the right people have the right ability to attack the right people when they're in this site. As in, until now, people who were not part of faction warfare could just enter there and just be there, and you couldn't attack them without a response. Now you can.
Right, and I think what they're saying is you have to have the safety turned off your guns, basically, right? Your safety setting.
Yeah,
in order
you can't
to
be safety
participate.
green.
Yeah, it protects you from accidentally triggering something that gets you into a fight. So that's what the subpoints are basically about. And faction war people are exempt to that.
Yeah, and we expect the safety system to protect players from clicking things that might accidentally put them into a suspect's status. So that's a good point, but I think that's something we would have expected to see anyways.
Yeah. So basically, and for clarity, we're not going to call these plexes, although that's the short name for them, because that kind of confuses people because we talk about pilot license extensions, which are plex that you buy for game time. So we'll call these sites, I guess, because they are little points in space where you, I guess, fight over things or meet around something.
Yeah, that name is still confusing. It's too bad that Plex wasn't renamed to Aurum back in the day, and then we would have a clear delineation between a Plex being a complex and Aurum being the premium currency.
Yeah,
that would definitely have been wise.
Or even if we call these like C-Plex or something, just some difference.
They're called complexes as their official name.
Yeah, there are faction warfare complexes just as there are dead space complexes. So this is a term that it's a technical term that is used in EVE to refer to an area of space where you cannot warp to from outside and land anywhere inside. When you warp to this area from outside, you will always land at a fixed point outside this space from which you can enter. So it's essentially a room with a door, and they call it a complex. Often, a complex will have multiple rooms. So this name, which doesn't really get used a whole lot in PvE contexts, has still, has hooked in and stayed with the faction warfare, and they're still called quote unquote plexes, which is very confusing.
Yeah, maybe F-plex or something to just distinguish it so that the layperson won't get confused. Anyway,
the issue is that we have two nouns. We have plex as as the noun for the currency, and we have plex as a noun for this thing, and then they both get turned into verbs. So you can plex, which means taking over a faction warfare complex, and you can plex your account, which means getting omega for your account with the currency. So there is not only two nouns, but two verbs associated with it, and it's extremely confusing.
wow, that's a good point. And then you have localization issues, right? Okay. Faction war.
So I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if this would actually have an impact, a meaningful impact, because in high sec, suspect flag has a large impact. It means anyone can attack you without the fear of being concorded. But in low sec, is suspect flags really a deterrent to anything? Or is it more of a notification that I'm in local and I see people's in their local chat flip the suspect, so I know they're doing something naughty?
I think that Ash would be able to speak to the specific impact better, but there are some freedoms that are granted to the player by being able to attack people with a suspect timer.
Okay, but anyway, the faction war acceleration gates will give a suspect flag. And the next point is faction warfare acceleration gates have an increased activation range, allowing for activation at 90 kilometers radius.
And just to answer the question I asked earlier, Robbie Bird in chat says it's the stop standing losses, and that's an important point. That's going to be helpful to faction warfare players. So thank you for.
All right, so the range of the gates are now 90 km.
That is specifically, so what you're about to discuss is the gate sliding, the return of gate sliding, which was a mechanic that everyone used and liked and was broken incidentally by CCP and promised to be restored by CCP, and this is them upholding that promise.
I've heard that gate sliding. Do you know how to describe that?
Yeah. In essence, it's the ability of a player to land on and enter a faction warfare complex without being molested on the outside. You don't get tackled, you don't get attacked, etc. You're able to get in and have your fight. So if you're in a frigate and you're trying to get into a complex that only a frigate can enter, there currently, until this patch, goes in, there could have been a battleship waiting outside, or literally anything waiting outside to kill you. And previously, before this was broken, you were able to slide directly into the plex out of your warp without waiting. And when they added the restriction against warp core stabilizers inside faction warfare complexes, that added a single tick where the system checked you, and that single tick made it impossible for the player to enter the complex without being attacked. So they have now come up with an alternate mechanic that allows players to enter the complex without being attacked.
Okay, next point is adding a new 5th tier to faction warfare sites and the remaining a large tier, largest in quotations. So I'll read some of these subpoints. Large compounds are now faction open compounds. Large strongholds are now faction open strongholds. And by the way, faction is a placeholder for whatever the faction is, like Amar.
Yeah, Kaldar, Galenti, Amar, Minotaur.
Adding a new tier of sites. These sites have gate restrictions that allow only battleship size or smaller ships. We'll stop there. So they're now gated by the battleship or smaller, which is a big deal, I think.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is to help showcase the changes to battleships, which we're going to see further down the patch notes. Now you can deploy battleships into a site without the fear of, all right, someone's going to drop caps on me.
Yep. Until now, there was no faction warfare complex in which you could bring a battleship and put it behind a gate. There was no gated complex that accepted battleships. There were open complexes with no gate where capitals could land. So now those complexes remain. They are being renamed open, which is much more clear as far as what they are. And large complexes are being added, which are actually gated and restricted to battleships.
Yeah, that's something that Suetonia got excited about on the Sunday show that just came out. Okay, so going on with the subpoints, the new battleships, the new battleship complexes are named faction large outpost. The progression in tiers is now, so this is all of them together. Novice, unchanged. Small, unchanged. Medium, unchanged. Large is the new battleship tier. And open is the formerly large sites or tiers. Okay, so last thing is loyal, not last thing, second to last thing. Actually, this is not a subpoint. This is the next bullet point. Loyalty point payouts for faction warfare PvP kills have been given a fixed increase and no longer linked to the Warzone tier multiplier. The LP, loyalty points, payout is now fixed at approximately the same level as it previously was when the attack held tier 5 Warzone control.
So all your LP rewards for kills are now maxed out forever.
Now, it's not affected by the multiplier.
Yeah, before there was a multiplier, your Warzone was in this tier, that tier. As you see, they had held Warzone control. And the more control you had, the more loyalty points you got. Now everything is just set to max. All your kills are worth more. They have added, they've fixed it at the maximum amount. And the next bullet point you're going to read is going to tell us the other half of that.
Got it. And a point made by Jaliant in chat is this referring to the battleship and smaller tiers. Now battleships will be able to fight in faction war without the threat of being nixed or having a capital dropped on them, a super capital. All right, so the last point here is for faction war. Loyalty point payouts for faction warfare missions have been reduced by approximately 30%.
I gotta say, Manuel, your voice is a little scratchy today. I hope you don't have the COVID.
I don't. I have a little bit of congestion. I can feel it, and that's only a 5.7% symptom of COVID.
Phew. Get tested.
So I think I'll be good. And I did get hit with allergies the other day, which really scared me because I started to feel sinus pressure, and I thought, well, that's not really a COVID thing either. But I took antihistamine, and it kind of cleared it up right away. So I thought, whew. And I've been quarantined now for 11 days. So
Fonsui said get tested. And had you lived in Iceland, you could get your free test as they test everyone. But since you're in the U.S., you don't get a test.
Not even if I have.
Why we can't have nice things.
Not even if I have a fever can I get a test. Basically, it's really hard to get a test. Okay, so that's the faction war part of this.
Yeah, the overall picture of those 2 bullet points is that they are shifting the rewards from missioning into killing.
Got it. Okay, exploration. This is interesting. Increased warp speed for all ships in low-sec systems by 2 astro units, or what are those called?
Yeah, astronomical unit is officially the distance between Earth and Earth's sun, which is generally a measure that we use, but the scientific community prefers parsecs these days.
All right.
8 light minutes, right?
Yeah, it's about 8.5 light minutes.
Okay, and that's just the fiction of it, but basically 2 AU active until April 6th. Now that's interesting. This is a limited time only increase to warp speed in low-sec.
This is linked to the low-sec event that's currently started.
Right. What's it called? King of Lowsec or something?
Yeah, something like that. Champions of Lowsec, Kings
Champions
of
of
Lowsec.
Lowsec sounds right.
And I almost want to pair this with the third point in the miscellaneous section because they kind of go together, where we have the loot drop chance. So when you look at these changes together, it looks like what we're doing with faction warfare and in LowSec is we're trying to do a push into PvP. Ships move faster. You'll get better loot. And if you're in faction warfare, you get the max amount of LP, even if your faction is losing the war.
Yeah, so I was wrong. It's not Kings. It's not Champions. It's Loyalty to Lowsec. That's the name of the event.
Yeah, Loyalty to Lowsec.
Seen it so many times, forgot it.
So yeah, so actually the two bottom bullet points in the miscellaneous section, as well as the single bullet point in exploration, it looks like they took all of the event related items and kind of split them up into the general patch categories that they use, as opposed to coalescing them into a single. This is the event.
Yeah, cool. And so let's go into graphics, then miscellaneous, and then NPCs. So I'll try to get through this a little faster. Added a circle of perimeter lights around acceleration gates to show activation range. Well,
This is related to the gate sliding.
Yeah, so this is not, but this is perimeter lights for acceleration gates. Is this all missions or just faction war missions?
Well, the second one's the next bullet point says specifically faction warfare, but it would appear that the first one applies to all acceleration gates.
Oh, I see. So some acceleration gates will just have a ring around them to show you when you can use them once you pass that threshold.
Yeah, it's like the docking ring around a structure or a station shows you when you're actually in range to dock. This is now a similar mechanic.
Now we're talking about gates here, but I want to be clear. This is acceleration gates. So this is not, you're not going to see these rings around system gates or jump gates or any of those things, just the gates that lead to missions, those long ones. Okay, so added a circle of perimeter lights around faction warfare capture beacons, showing the capture range and capture status. These lights will change color depending on the beacon's capture state. For instance, green being captured by defending faction, orange contested, red being captured by attacking faction. So those will change colors. So does that mean you'll know what's going on? You'll basically be able to know if you can approach and in safety. So I'm sure that can be explained better. What's the color difference really mean to tactical pilots? Anyone?
I certainly couldn't tell you specifically the kind of decisions that one would make based on this information, but it's clear that having this information indicating the state of the fight inside the complex will provide intel that will allow a player to make a decision.
I think this is helpful because right now, if you were to land at a site, the only way you know if someone's in it is with D-scan. But you don't know if that's a faction warfare pilot in there, or it could be a dirty pirate waiting to tackle a faction warfare person. It looks like these color codes will let you know if it's being captured or not. So if a pirate's sitting inside the complex,
right,
there's no color indicating that it's being contested or captured.
Okay, so if there's no color, nothing's happening. If it's orange, you know that people are fighting in there for it. If it's green, your guys have it. If it's red, somebody that...
well, it's not your guys and the other guys. It's attacker and defender. So it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's about the system. So this system belongs to the Galente. Therefore, if the Galente are capturing that plex, it will be green. And if the Caldari are capturing that plex in the Galente system, it will be red.
Oh, okay. So you know what you're getting into a little bit better.
Yeah, so the colors seem to only activate when there is an actual faction warfare player inside. So if you don't see colors and you do see someone on D-scan, that's a pirate.
Okay. They managed to make something that's super easy, supposedly easy to understand, a little more complex. I'm used to standings towards you and attackability or defendability. Okay, let's move on to
Oh,
miscellaneous.
this is in the mind of faction warfare players. They're used to these types of system ownership and plex ownership mechanics.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So,
And the tethering changes that they made are applied to that too. So who owns the system impacts who can tether to what. So like Fonsui said, if you're in faction warfare, you're looking at who owns the system and who's contesting the system.
okay. Good. So it's more information for them to make better decisions. Okay. So next is miscellaneous. If a war ends, this looks like war deck stuff. Let's highlight it. If a war ends because the attacking corporation/alliance fails to pay their war declaration bill, a forced peace treaty for 14 days is triggered. This will prevent the attackers from redeclaring another war against the same target.
This is the current war loss mechanic, and it is being added now if you just don't pay your bill. So if I declare war on your corporation and you blow up my war headquarters after we declared war on you, I am not allowed to declare war on you again for 2 weeks. This is now being added if I just simply forget to pay my bill.
Okay. So it's just adding it to that condition. Next is a second daily challenge has been added to the skilling is just a means event that rewards skill points each day for the destruction of one of the NPCs defending a factional warfare capture site. This extra challenge will be available until April 6th, at which point skilling is just a means event will return to having a single challenge per day. To give you a little background on skilling is just a means, that title comes from a song that was made by
Permaband.
Permaband. Thank you, Drew Blank. Permaband, one of Eve's dev bands, and the song was called "Killing is Just a Means of Communication." So that's where that
What's
comes
interesting about Permaband is that I'm not sure if any of the members of Permaband still work for CCP, but they still do Permaband.
They still do Permaband. Actually, one does. I think the female singer that's relatively new to the band.
The one, so at Vegas, this past Vegas, the Permaband performed, and the female vocalist was CCP Tara. I'm not sure if she's officially part or not, but I believe that she was not the one on the recorded vocals.
No, she wasn't. She was not. But she may be the only existing member of Permaband that still works for CCP. The other guys, although they still perform and rally around EVE Online, I think have all departed. The guitarist, the other musician.
We know Guard.
And CCP Guard. Yeah, the front man. Okay, so, but that feature, again, is part of the loyalty to LowSec, and so it's going to expire on April 6th. So basically,
yeah, there's two events running concurrently. The skilling is just a means event, is a month long. The loyalty to LowSec is just a week long. And while the loyalty to LowSec is active, then we'll have 2 tasks. And when that goes away, we go back to 1.
Okay, here is the last part of miscellaneous is the loot drop chance has been increased to 90% in low security space. Again, active until April 6th.
Yep, more of the same. I really do. Mm-hmm. They have covered all of the changes for the event in the post about the event, but I don't necessarily love that the individual changes were split up into the mechanical sections for the standard patch notes. Although, I mean, it does make sense in some way.
I think they're trying to be thorough
for an engineer.
But I agree with you. I think they should be separate. But I think they're just trying to be thorough. Okay.
Yeah, they just filter stuff into the mechanical categories that they normally go in.
Yeah, exactly. Probably easier for them. Mission and NPCs reduce the mining efficiency of NPC mining fleets, and this is kind of a big deal. First of all, what are NPC mining fleets?
They eat up all your rocks. They spawn, I think, they spawn always, or do they only spawn with fobs in the system? One of the two. I know that fobs spawn them. And then they go and they eat up all your rocks. So apparently now they're going to do less.
They were too efficient. I've heard that they were like sometimes within 4 hours would eat everything in your system, so you wouldn't be able to mine anything in there. So they were like too efficient.
I think this is a preparation for the upcoming moon changes that we don't see in this patch. And we already know that the CP is going to be reducing the ore and giving us a kind of a shortage phase, or not phase, but shortage of ores in the universe. And by reducing the NPCs, I think that's part of their balance for it.
So Nick in chat says that those NPCs currently only interact with asteroid belts, but we don't know what's going to change.
Yeah, in the future, but they were too effective. I remember people complaining about them, so this might ease up a little bit. Okay, ships, and allow more mining from players. Now we're getting to the ship sections. Here it is, adding the frigate escape bay to battleships, marauders, and black ops. Click here for more information, and there is no link. They'll need to put the link there.
Oops.
So that is the frigate escape bay mechanic that we've talked about many times in the last couple weeks, or since it was announced. We'll just skip that part because you can always refer to any of the older shows. Look for them.
And now that Faction Warfare has a battleship featured site with this change, it's a great opportunity to try your frigate escape bay in a Faction Warfare battleship site.
Yeah, apparently a popular ship is going to be the Amarian frigate. Oh, what's it called? I'm forgetting the names of all the ships. Punisher? I think that is it.
Sorry, what are you looking for?
The Amarian frigate is going to be popular.
Oh yeah, Punisher and Torment are very popular in Faction Warfare.
Yeah, Punisher. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was thinking of. You know, when I first started EVE, I didn't know any of the ship names, and when people would talk about ships or even see them in the field and be, you know, like, oh, we can't take that on, that's a Marauder. Or they wouldn't even say Marauder, that's a Golem. I'd be like, well, what's a Golem? I don't know what a Golem is. But as you get more experience with EVE, eventually you'll memorize I don't even know how many ships there are, but there must be over 100 ships. And you'll memorize what class they are and what they're capable of. And then when somebody says Kronos on field, you'll know that it can do webs, and that it's something that can go into a defensive tank zone because it's a Marauder. And so you'll just know that stuff, which is pretty exciting.
Took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah, it takes a long time to memorize all the names of the ships and what class they belong to. And then to put the racial preferences on each of those too, you start to know the difference between what a Golem can do and what a Kronos can do, for instance. That takes a long time.
We should run down the frigate escape bay really quick because Lycanthropy Games in chat was asking about it.
Oh, okay. So real quick, what's the frigate escape bay?
So you can now load, there's a bay that holds precisely one frigate. The restrictions are interceptors and Covops Tech 2 frigates. All others are allowed. If you eject from a battleship manually or by the battleship being destroyed, while a frigate is in the frigate escape bay that you are capable of piloting, you will automatically appear in the frigate. That means if you manually eject, your battleship will be right next to you and you'll be in the frigate, and then you can reboard it. And if you get destroyed, then your wreck will be right next to you and you can loot it and run away or do something else.
That's it. It wasn't the Punisher. It was Retribution. That's the ship.
So Retribution is the Tech 2. It's the assault frigate version of the Punisher.
Well, I don't understand. The Tech 2 frigates can go into the escape bay. Did they make that clear? They did. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only ones that are not allowed are the Tech 2 groups specifically known as Interceptor and Covert Ops.
Sorry about that. You're right. There were certain T2s that could go into this bay. So the Retribution is going to be really popular. And if you want to know more about that, listen to Talking in Stations, the last podcast where we talk about the Rumble in Providence. Part of that show, or half the show, is talking to people like Sutonia or Bjorn B or Villy about this frigate escape bay. So check that out.
What Viserys is saying in chat is interesting, where you can go into your frigate from your battleship and then get back into your battleship. And that's an interesting mechanic, because let's say Fonsui and I are camping a site in our battleships. Someone warps in, but they might think, battleship's locked fast. I can get out. I can hop into my frigate, tackle. Fonsui can follow up with a heavier tackle from the battleship. Then I can go back into my battleship. And now you're in a smaller ship, but you're tackled by two battleships.
Yep. There's another option of a battleship pilot flying alongside a frigate pilot, and that frigate pilot now has a reship with him or two different ships that he can swap between.
It's going to be very interesting on every scale. For smaller scale, you can see tricks like this, people riding together and having options. And then for large scale fleets, the frigate escape bay is going to allow momentum of a battle to swing. As battleships get destroyed, they lose DPS off the field, but they will gain tackle power, basically, or even logistics if you're using frigate logistics like Goonswarm was with their Tempest fleet. So it can change momentum of a big battle, but more interesting to me is what's going to happen in the small gang arena.
Yeah, the options are tackle, logi, escape, and attack.
Yeah, that's why it's called fight or flight. I think that was how this got introduced. Are you going to continue to fight with a small frigate, or are you going to try to find your way out of the battle? All right, so more on that on Talking in Stations and any other show that's called Frigate Escape Bay. I think we did too. So last thing for this patch is structures and deployables. So let's talk about that. Here's the first point. Hull reinforcement duration for war headquarters structures reduced to 24 hours, down from 4.5 days. That's a huge change. This is intended to give defenders a realistic chance of taking down a headquarters within 7 days.
Since a war is 7 days long anyway.
And this couples with the previous change. So what you could have done in the past, since it would take longer than 7 days, is say I declare war on you and you reinforce my headquarters. I can let the war drop and then just declare it again on a different headquarters. Now, if I, as an attacker, let the war drop, I have a 14-day cooldown. Additionally, my timers are shorter, so now it allows the defender a better opportunity to take down a HQ.
This is actually particularly relevant to me personally, since my main character is in Signal Cartel, and we are perma war decked most of the time by the high sec farmers. So Pirate and Co, those guys who basically just literally farm high sec, they just sit on top of G244 and shoot whoever comes out, and that's it. So those guys do that. They allow wars to expire. They don't pay the bill, and then they go and set it up on another structure. They just roll their wars so that the headquarters change constantly, and if they're attacked, etc., just as you said. So this is going to prevent them from doing that.
Got it. So this looks like it's basically a fix for some of the stuff that was going on with war decks, war declarations. All right, good. So those are the notes. We'll get to some features and changes. Actually, that is...
Yeah, that's it for the official changes for today.
It is. Okay, that's last. Yeah, this is 324. General feedback link, known issues, and then feedback, known issues for Mac. Again, very good job by CCP, except they missed that one link. They should put that in there. But other than that, you can give your feedback right away at the bottom of this these patch notes. It's a good idea. I gotta say, I expected a bit more. So this is released today, by the way. One last thing, official forum thread is right here. There's a link to that, so you can go there and find out more about this stuff and some of the feedback that CCP is already getting. So great combination of patch notes and forums. Go ahead, Fonsui.
Our patches have felt for a while like kind of small / unimpactful to some degree because they keep telling us what's going to happen, and the patch notes are just like, yeah, now it's happening, and we kind of already know, so we're not surprised or excited necessarily, which is a good thing. This is how it should be. It's like, we've discussed the changes coming, this is what's happening, everybody knows. Now the patch notes, so the patch notes aren't the notification of the changes, they're the notification that the changes have been put in.
Got it. Oh, I see. Okay. That's why they're official. They're what actually made it. into the game.
And that's why it's okay for patch notes to appear when the patch happens and not before, because we have generally these days already been informed.
Yeah. All right. One last thing about the frigate escape bay. The mechanic is, we talked about the origin of it. I believe we talked about that. It might have been actually Sunday's show, so check that out, where CCP Rise is contemplating how to get people. Oh no, that was the, sorry, that was something else. That was the Yeet Fleet stuff. So never mind, scratch that. But another thing that I wanted to say about the frigate escape bay is that it reminded me of ghostwriting, which was something I like talking about because it was so interesting back in the day. There were rumors that this thing was going on, and supers were, and even capitals were getting tackled and killed. This is when supers were rare and capitals were expensive, so it was a big deal. So it's about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And people would say, like, it's a ghostwriter, he's in the area, and people would freak out that were in capital ships. Why? Because what would happen is a guy in a carrier would jump into your system, so you wouldn't see him coming. You would just see him jump into your system. He would jump out of his carrier, and first he would eject a hick, right? Or some kind of tackling ship. And he would eject it and then jump into that tackling ship, a much smaller ship. And he would use that to tackle your ship and to protect his ship from being, his carrier, from being boarded and stolen. He would web it or scram it.
Lock it.
Oh, he would just lock it. That's right. He would just lock it.
When a ship is locked, the only player that is allowed to enter it is the previous player who was in it.
So he essentially would lock his ship, jump into a smaller tackling ship, tackle you, and then hold you while friends came to finish you off, and then he would jump back into his carrier and help destroy you. And that was called ghost writing, and I think it was used a lot by Pandemic Legion and Black Legion, kind of against each other, actually. So that's what this frigate bay reminds me of. It was a really cool feature that players had come up with. Okay, so that's what's in the game, but we also wanted to talk about some of the stuff that you've seen, right, Fonsui? The
exciting things are coming, people.
Stuff that is on the test server. This is not in the game yet. It's on the test server. So what have you seen?
Before going to the test server, just want to have one final update on the patch notes we just had.
Oh yeah.
For everyone in nullsec who's just tuning in, there are no moon changes. You'll have to wait next week to see when there's moon changes. Pretty much every Discord I'm in, first question of the day was, moon changes?
People are waiting for
not
those,
yet.
Right? Okay, before you start.
Every week.
Before you start, Fonsui, we never did play this Pulse version, the edition on the show, so we're going to play it now. We'll be back in like 3 minutes.
We're gonna see how Convict dies today?
Yeah, see how he dies today, this comic strip. This is about 7 minutes long, so take a break. We'll be back in 7 minutes.
Welcome to the Pulse Capsuleers, your one-stop shop for everything that's been happening in New Eden. This week, we're going to be looking at some major updates that are coming to life in LowSec. The Loyalty to LowSec update, coming on the 24th of March, will provide a thrilling climax to the Fight or Flight quadrant. There will be changes to faction warfare, improving the overall experience for those of you who engage with this feature. This will begin with increased loyalty point payouts for PvP kills made during faction warfare. At the same time, loyalty point payouts for faction warfare missions given by agents will be reduced, which will increase the relative value of combat in faction warfare. In addition, there will be an increase in the activation area that surrounds acceleration gates. This will allow Capsuleers to enter faction warfare combat complexes with less chance of being tackled or stopped before entering the main complex area. This will effectively reintroduce the player emergent behavior of gate sliding, and will be supported by the introduction of perimeter lighting around the acceleration gates to indicate the extent of the activation region surrounding it. Another exciting development coming to faction warfare is the introduction of brand new battleship-specific sites. This presents a perfect opportunity for Capsuleers to make use of the brand new and exciting Frigate Escape Bay feature when things get hairy during combat. Speaking of the Frigate Escape Bay, Capsuleers have been able to try out this new feature on the Singularity test server for a few weeks now, and it's going live into EVE on the 24th of March as well. And that's not all for the Lowsec love. As part of the Loyalty to Lowsec update, there will be an increase to the loot dropped from PvP in Lowsec and an increase to warp speed in Lowsec between the 24th of March and the 6th of April. These limited time changes will promote further PvP activity in Lowsec, undoubtedly having an effect on how Capsuleers make use of them during faction warfare, in no small part due to the significant speed boost battleships will enjoy. There will also be an additional task added to the daily PvP challenges as part of the Skilling is Just a Means of Communication event that runs until April the 14th. Capsuleers will be offered an extra 10,000 skill points daily for killing one of the NPCs defending the faction warfare capture sites. So that makes 20,000 skill points available every day. The faction warfare changes, warp speed and PvP loot drop increases are now live on the Singularity test server for you to try out. And now, loitering somewhere in Lowsec, it's post-worm CCP Convict.
Earlier in this episode of The Pulse, you would have already heard about some of the cool changes coming to Faction Warfare and Lowsec in our next release. Back in 2013, there was a contest held called Kings of Lowsec to determine once and for all who was the biggest predator in all of Lowsec space. Well, it's not just Capsuleers who will be taking notice of the changes to Lowsec. The paramilitary organisation Mordu's Legion has as well, and they are sponsoring a contest called Champions of Lowsec that will be running this month from the 26th to the 31st of March. The alliance or corporation that destroys the most value in ISK during this period will be crowned the Champions of Lowsec. Mordu's Legion will be awarding special medals to any Capsuleer from the winning side that shows up on a kill mail. In addition to that, the logo of the winning alliance or independent corporation will be printed on a gigantic flag and displayed at Groska, CCP's new HQ, which we'll be moving into soon. And finally, a special tribute will be produced, which will be displayed on all of the billboards throughout New Eden for an entire month. More details about this event will be coming in a dev blog soon. Well, that title's not going to claim itself. It's time to head out. Me and my friends have a date with destiny. Remember, dress for the job you want, not the one you've got. And if you want to be a champion of Lowsec, you need to dress in style. During this period, from the 24th to the 31st, there will be 25% off selected skins such as Oasis of Faith, Zento Wizard Deco Combine, Snowline Blade Racer, and Vital Shift Ego skins for popular faction warfare ships like Navy issue frigates and cruisers. Secondly, the new Escapologist bundle will provide 4 stunning skins for popular battleships and 4 free frigate skins as well. Plus, there will be 50% off the Macarial Angels Hex skin as well. Alright guys, are you ready to become the champions of Lowsec?
We got this.
Right. This is gonna be so radical. Let's blow up some noobs.
Alright. Align to Oigen and Gate, warp, and jump on contact.
Warp drive active.
Lowsec, here we come.
Oh, rad. I'm gonna blow some shit up.
Where the hell did all these Triglavians come from? Is this an invasion system? CCP Shreddy, why didn't you tell us?
Notifications? Those are a drag. I turned those off.
Alright, crash the gate as fast as you can. Go. Get back to high sec. Alright guys, don't forget to overheat your prop mods. Seriously?
And now to talk about Twitch versus Eve, it's over to the latest addition to the community team, CCP Aurora.
We're excited to let you know that the fan favorite Twitch vs. Eve is returning to Twitch on March 21st for its 3rd installment. A fleet of EVE Online streamers will form up, each with experienced fleet commanders in their ranks, and they will go looking for trouble and fights all across New Eden. This event is designed to get all the streamers together in order to entertain and reward the viewers and players of EVE, while creating some fun in-game and Twitch content. CCP devs, GMs, ISDs will also be participating in the fleet with streamers. This year there will be 5 FCs from across New Eden. They are Bjorn B, Pandarelica, Virion Spectre Fleet, Greygal, and Baleful Dysnomia. There will be prizes for kill mails to players such as Plex, skins, and tons of other giveaways across the streams to thank the community for their support of EVE Online's content creators. Be sure to check out Twitch to find out who you want to watch and join the fun.
We're pleased to announce that EVE Online has been authorized to operate in China in partnership with NetEase Games. EVE Online will launch in China soon and will then be open to millions of new and returning Chinese capsuleers, with the development teams at NetEase and CCP currently making final adjustments and optimizations to the game before it goes into open beta. From the 19th to the 24th of March, you'll be able to purchase 3 months of multiple character training and 3 months of Omega combined for 50% off. This means you can train skills on an additional character at the same time as your primary character for those 3 months. Along with 3 months of Omega benefits, you can use this offer to significantly advance skill training potential across your characters. That's all for this episode of The Pulse. Thank you for joining us, Capsuleers. Remember to hit subscribe to stay notified of any new videos we post. And if you missed last week's episode of The Pulse, you can catch it there. Fly safe. See you next time.
All right. So that was from the 20th. We weren't able to play it or forgot to play it. Actually, we probably weren't able to play it because things have been kind of crazy in our schedule. So there it is. It's a little bit late, but all the stuff they talked about does fall in today, except some of the stuff is already passed. The event with the players versus devs, I think, is over, and the sale is over, but you probably saw notifications of that anyway.
Twitch versus Eve was this weekend. Huge success. Much content was had.
Right. We talked about that again on Sunday. That's why Bjorn B was there. Okay. So one other thing that we also haven't told you about the new community rep. You saw her there for the first time. And her name is now CCP Aurora. So she's on the dev team. That makes a total of 5, I think. It depends on the classification of one other dev. But the community team is back and reconstituted with, I think, a very strong team. I'm very excited to see all their participation. You saw CCP Convict in the spaceship there. He was a team leader of that fictional group that was going to conquer Losec. Ended up getting wiped out by Triglavians. One other thing, besides the community team as being great, is it is Champions of Losec. That's the competition, isn't it?
Just a small issue. Is it a coincidence that you start the show arguing the whole Plex and Plex problem, and now we got the Aurora problem?
Right? How did she get that name?
And is it going to fuck up the servers when she actually tries to put her name into the actual server as an ID?
Well, I mean, Aura and Aurora.
Are they different?
Yeah, Aura and Aurora.
Well, okay, well, that's different.
This is what we would classify as future dev typos when you're updating code.
Yes.
I see. Yeah, but it is Champions of Losec is a different thing than loyalty to Losec. So there's two different things. Champions to Losec is a tournament whereby players are fighting for the reputation of being the best Losec pilots.
I love that you're sticking to the same theme of naming things that are completely almost the same.
I linked the Champions of Losec post in Twitch chat.
Thank you. Okay, we'll put that in show notes too.
Okay, this was the confusion. In 2013, EVE Online hosted the Kings of Losec contest, and this one is the Champions of Losec.
Okay, so Kings, Champions, and loyalty to Losec, all three of those are valid, just parts of different things. Okay, I don't feel so bad, right? We're not just coming with stuff off the top of our heads. We're like referring to our knowledge that's all mixed up upstairs. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go off screen for this next bit. We'll talk with Fonsui and the others about what's going on the test server.
Fun stuff, people.
Let's see.
So obviously this is all on Singularity, which is the test server.
Do you have a link, by the way?
Doesn't even... yeah, sure. Here is today's Singularity update in Twitch chat. So, as we know, Singularity is a test server, but the stuff being on there doesn't necessarily mean it's ready or even able to be tested. What I am talking about is simply the Hobo Leaks update, the data updates that I'm looking at. This is what Ashtarothi and I like to call reading the tea leaves, which frankly is it's a lot more open and basic than it seems. This is not arcane knowledge. This isn't anything crazy or insane derivations. So what we're going to look at today mainly, so there were two major groupings of changes that were put on the Singularity, along with other random stuff that I can't necessarily identify the purpose of. One thing is the Easter event is coming with the Guristas. the Garista's bunny. It's is going to be the mascot, I suppose. I believe the Easter event is always Garistas. So if you look on Singularity, you'll find that there's a bunch of items added. There's it looks like scavenger hunt items: mysterious capsule wreck, used ectoplasm fluid, burned transneural scanner, melted scraps of capsule plating, DED informant's frozen corpse. That's all in the new items category, which is what we're going to look at first. Followed by mysterious orange capsule, mysterious red capsule, etc., so on and so forth. They have a bunch of different colors. Obviously, these are the Easter eggs that we are supposed to hunt for in some form or another. There's a bunch of NPCs that were added. They all have they're all Kaldari or Garista's ships, and they have the word hunt in front of them. There's a number of other items that were added with hunt in front of them: hunt, acceleration, gate key, etc. So clearly, this is the event that is going to be coming for Easter in April. That is, we don't know what the rewards are going to be yet. No clue. Those aren't here. We have no idea. Although there are some apparel items with Garista's names on them that are being added to the game now. So it's possible that these will be rewards or simply just added to the game. I wouldn't expect that this would be the sum total of the rewards, just some headwear and footwear and pants. The more impactful change that we're going to see coming is the shield resists rebalance, and this is a very, very, very big deal. If we expand the attributes per type section of today's Singularity update, we see a slew of changes to effectively all shield hardeners. The only exceptions I can see, and again, this is not complete yet, they may be adding stuff. The only exceptions I can see are the B-type dead space modules. Everything else, all the way down from meta all the way up to, including Tech 2, Faction, and Dead Space, all of those have been changed in some form or another. Some of them have just had their meta level changed. Some of them have had their CPU increased. Some of them have had their CPU reduced. The Faction modules have had their CPU requirement increased. The meta modules have had their CPU requirement reduced. A lot of the modules have had heat damage reduced. And most of the modules have had their actual resistances, their effectiveness reduced, increased rather. So that is buffed, and that is extremely good. The Tech 2 adaptive invulnerability field was buffed, which is pretty much the standard, because as soon as you're not using the Tech 2 adaptive invulnerability field, you're using something that costs anywhere from 2 to 500 million. That's the jump. That's the next step up. So that getting buffed is a very big deal. There was also a change to the cycle time. All these hardeners had a cycle time of 12 seconds. Now they have a cycle time of 15 seconds, but their capacitor usage has not been changed, which means that they will now draw the same amount of capacitor as before, less frequently. So now you're going when you have these modules overheated, they will generate heat ticks less often. Those heat ticks will be smaller, and since it runs less often, it will use less capacitor, in addition to having more resistances. And in the case of the higher end modules, they will have a higher CPU requirement. There have also been compact and enduring meta modules added that did not exist before. These are the two major groupings of changes that we are seeing today, which I do not expect are complete. There are some other things that made their way in there that I can't necessarily, suss out exactly what they are, but they seem very interesting. So obviously the very, very top item under new items is G to Moon. I have no idea what they're going to do with that. I don't necessarily think it's going to be very impactful. Another one is there are some strings in there that indicate a login campaign, a weekend login campaign. So I would expect one of those to come in the next month. There should be a login campaign. Lastly, there is there are obfuscation strings that they have added. There were two. I'm trying to remember the second one, but one of them, if you search for the word palm under strings, or rather, I think if you go all the way to the top of the page, you can actually show them at all. At the very top, there's a search box, and you can type in the word palm. And if you type that in, not on the web page, but on the actual HoboLeaks page, the very, very top, yeah, you see the search there? The filter box, rather? Yeah, so if you type that in, you'll see that there's a string that says, "This is a shield booster disguised as a palm tree." So I have no idea what that means. I have a thought. It it is possible that is the beginning of a shield booster rebalance, and they're just hiding it from us because it's not ready and there's only one entry so far. Or it's possible that it's nothing. There is literally no way to tell what this means at this point. But since the shield hardeners were rebalanced and shield boosters were slated for rebalance, when I see something referring to a shield booster, that is what it means to me.
A
So
palm tree.
that's yeah. So they've been doing this. They've done this for a long time, but specifically since Vegas, when I spoke to Rise about this, he told me that they're going to be doing more of this kind of stuff, and they have since then, where things that need to be put into the code and are going to make their way onto the test server, that's not controllable. Like that's just part of the development process, and this information is going to make its way out there. uh, but they have a way now to obfuscate that from us so as not to spoil anything or make promises that they can't keep, etc. So that's what these strings tend to do. They've when the needle jack filaments were added, when the reindeer filaments were added, those were also obfuscated from us on Singularity with these garbage strings. It's pretty much it for Singularity today, but that's a lot to chew on. And I strongly recommend that anyone who's interested in the mechanics of the shield resists should very closely examine these changes and see what the stat changes are going to be.
Well, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Again, that's a look into the future. None of that stuff is in the game. Showing you what's changed on the test server, give you hints about what might change in the game, what direction it's going, that sort of thing. Normally, we don't like spoilers. I never liked looking at this stuff, but I figure we're just far beyond waiting for things to drop. All right. I think we can wrap it up, right? You guys have anything else?
I'm all talked out.
Me too. And you did most of the talking. All right, we lost Spot early, unfortunately, before my jokes even. All right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in today. We will see you tomorrow on Today in EVE Online. Let's see if we can raid somebody. Jebby. Let's raid him. All right. See you guys.